That was so wonderful. Oh, yeah. Last night I anyway laughed a lot. Yeah, they were laughing at me. I was laughing with them, but we can't laugh anymore today because Narshawan's here. So we have to be very serious because Narshawan would not put up with any levity. And well, that was so wonderful and also startling to hear all those dear lovers of Baba who will soon, well, I was going to say soon be back, but maybe some of them won't. We may never see them again. But they'll be here in other ways. And yeah, I mean, such great souls, right? I kind of wanted to say something about every one of them, It's my sort of, I don't know how you feel, but it's like one's life is passing before you, the people that you've known and touched through your life, who've touched you, who've inspired you, and so many on that list. That I have to laugh a little bit because Ginny Califf, I went to college with Ginny. I don't know if you knew Ginny Williamson and Califf, and then she married Craig. So there's a whole bunch of Ginnys, but Ginny, who worked at the center at the end, and did you all remember her, Ginny? She, one day, she was a kind of like Kitty. She had malapropisms, was how every day we'd have a new Kittyism or a new Ginnyism. So I was one day saying, so this was early on, at Emory, we had meetings. I'd say, well, Kaka has gone, and now this person, Duncan, and soon after Baba dropped the body, these major disciples left, and she looked up wistfully and she said, "Oh, there sure have been a lot of droppings lately." That's the best I've ever heard. Just the image of it, Oh, God. Oh, all right. Well, on that happy note, oh, gosh. I was telling him last night, Narshawan, this belonged to Norina, but you can't have it. And if it disappears during this weekend, I'm coming for you. You got to watch him, It's all for posterity, of course, right? Yeah, but yeah, I don't care about posterity. I want to keep my folder here. Let's see. Remember what I was going to talk about. At my age, notes are essential.
You're looking good, though.
I'm looking good. Not sounding great, but looking good. I'm actually still thinking about all those people who love Baba so much. I mean, how Baba chose his lovers, right? Chose all of us. Not because we're anything unusual or special in the world sense, but because he knows us, that we are ready to be his lover. Not his follower, not someone who says he's the avatar, but his lover. It reminds me of the highest of the high, where Baba talks about, as you remember, he's for everyone. He's for everyone. He's the avatar. He's in everyone. But as the beloved, he's for the few. And that's always the case. There's always just a few that are lovers. And we've heard the names of some of the great ones this morning. So, been a lot of droppings lately. Yeah, listen, I lived through the 70s. I know this. Disco night.
As Eric used to say, that's Baba saying yes, though we just heard some of the great ones.
Yes, that's Baba saying yes. That's right. Baba saying yes. Yeah, that's like this wonderful wedding I did years ago, and it's the Welds, Annie Weld, and Matt, their wedding, and out in Gloucester, and their mansion and all that was very beautiful. And then suddenly the lights went out in the middle, and all we had were little candles, and it was so. But it turned out to be the highlight of the wedding. We did the rest in the dark, and I think it was Kathy Riley holding the candle so I could read what I was supposed to do. Yeah, and they felt, well, Baba's really here. So that's right. That's right, Tony. Baba's here. Or when in India, you may remember this, whenever there would be like a sound of some sort, a big sound during something, like if Eric was saying something, or Mani, they'd say, see, it's true. Yeah. See, it's true. All right, so. So the quote this morning is one of my very favorite things Baba ever gave. It's from the Everything and the Nothing, and you will all know this. It's so beautiful. Everybody gets one. So I'm going to give the quote out before I read it, so you all have it. I think I have more than enough now. Tonight we had a little problem with numbers, and Narchwan with one of my quotes, but today I'm prepared. On the front is this beautiful picture of Baba and Mara in front of the guest house at Mayor Center. And I especially love the fact that this picture was taken in 1952, Baba's first visit. Of course, that's the only time Mara was there. And in it, Baba is holding a bunny rabbit that Charmy and Deuce had brought for Baba to see and to hold. And so Mara and Baba are holding the bunny rabbit. And they're so happy. You never see Baba happier than when he's standing next to Mara. So did everyone get one? That you didn't back there? Here's more. It's coming. Let's do it like they did when we were growing up in school. Someone read out the quote. How's that? Yes. You'll grab one. All right. Yeah. Who would like to read it out for everybody?
I'll do it.
Okay, who's that? Who said? Oh, great.
Every moment I respond to the whole of creation. My response, being divine, is wholly from love. Meher Baba.
Yeah. For me, this says it all, And I think of this every day. This what Baba says here. Every moment, Baba responds to the whole of creation. And the response is wholly from love. Well, I've always, the first thing that came to me when I first read this was, how is it possible? Just on a human level, when you think about it, how is it possible? that this could be. I mean, so I mean, Baba tells us he's all-knowing, but it's difficult to imagine I think, for the mind, or at least my mind, to imagine how the avatar responds to the whole of creation in every moment with love. In other words, how does he know every heart? How does he respond? Because responding to the whole of creation means responding to the heart of everyone and everything simultaneously. So I've thought about this, and so I told the kids at the youth house, and this is probably the only thing they remember I said, which is fine because I remember everything they said, and that's probably more important. But I told them, I said, when I was growing up with Baba back in the day, we didn't have an analog or an analogy. We didn't have a gross world thing to compare universal mind, as it were. We didn't have that. So it was sort of the imagination was difficult to sort of think about because we didn't have it. Now we do. I said, you do. You take it for granted. You have Siri, or you have Alexa, or whoever it is. Let's just call it Siri or her, and you have that. Right? So now it's interesting, really. It's funny, but it's also interesting. The mind of consciousness today among young people is, oh yeah, because if you think about it, driving up here, Siri was giving me directions every day. I had a hard enough time, but what if I didn't have Siri? I would still be out there looking, right? And the old maps, you couldn't figure that out, and MapQuest even, which I thought was a great innovation, but then you had to read it, and then half the time it was wrong. So Siri, though, is mostly correct, and you can rely on and all that. And here's the thing, though. Siri is also guiding all these other people at the same time, simultaneously. Could be thousands, could be millions. And all at the same moment, every moment. Think of it. What an amazing thing that is. So I can imagine now, universal mind. I mean, of course, Siri is the seventh shadow of universal mind. But nevertheless, we've come to the point in human consciousness where we actually experience the shadow of the shadow, right? That it's possible. Yeah, and Siri is even a little bit like Bob, if you will. I mean, I don't want to stretch this metaphor too far, but she is in that if you take a wrong direction on the path, she corrects you in a nice way, and she just keeps giving you the right direction. And if you persist in your ignorance, she will reroute you and get you back on the true path.
No shame, no blame.
No, that's right. And just think of that. Now that's an avatar for you right there. So I told the kids, I said, just think of Baba as the divine GPS. And you will never go wrong. The difference is, of course, that his guidance, unlike Siri, which is rather impersonal at the end of the day, she could probably care less whether you actually make it to your destination. She doesn't inquire whether you died along the way. But Baba cares. And his guidance is always with great compassion, But still, think of it. So Baba, simultaneously. Growing up, I really did used to think, how can Baba be thinking of me? After he left in 58, I was very anxious about it because I mean, a lot of people Baba has to think about, and then they started telling me these things after he left. Oh, he's the avatar. I said, oh, so, that means the whole world is on his shoulders. And it made me feel so much worse. Because, it was bad enough, but now I'm competing with all these other people for attention. How is he possibly going to have time for me? And you think of it, Baba, God gets all these prayers from all these churches every Sunday. What a day that must be for him, right? And so, my childlike idea was, no, that's impossible. He cannot possibly be remembering me. And that gave me great anxiety, so what to do. And I would think about that a lot. And then Baba would give hints that he was remembering me. So a letter came from Mani and Mara, excuse me, to my mother soon after Baba left. And they said, they told my mother, and this is when I'm in the middle of my angst about Baba remembering me. They told my mother that they saw the 58 film. They'd showed it to Baba, at Maharazad. And every time, they said, every time the little white head of Charles popped up, Baba would say, there he is. And also Wendy, Baba would point out. And after I read that, I said, he remembers. Yeah, he remembers. Right? But he gave me that, you see. He knew that as a child I would need that reassurance. So he gave it to me. So kind Baba is. So he remembers. He thinks of us. Of course, he says he is us. So that makes sense. But still, consciously remembers us. That's the thing. So I wanted to share a few stories, if I haven't already taken up all my time with my introduction. I want to share a few stories about Baba remembering every heart. Excuse me. Now these stories, I'm going to have this frog in my throat the whole time, it sounds like, because it's such an emotional thing, to think about all these Baba lovers that you named. I'm just still thinking about them. So Baba, these stories are from Baba's lifetime when he was in the body. His lifetime now, there are countless stories. And maybe in the breakout, if I give you enough time for a breakout, you can share those stories of Baba, of your experience of Baba remembering your heart or someone's heart. So one story, actually one of my very favorite stories, is about John Bass. Did anyone actually here meet John Bass by any chance? Tony, you knew John Bass. Okay, so you're my truth teller here. If I don't get John right, you tell me. But John Bass, who lived in New York, loved Baba very much, and he was kind of like one of the leaders of the New York group, and he was. But earlier than that, John, who was quite imposing, he had a big bulldog face, and I mean, right, long and big, and his face alone would intimidate you. But his speech, he had an impediment of some sort, so that his speech and the face together were really intimidating. It's like, and it's like, oh my, really, right? And he was not, he was just, that's just how he was. And the funny Baba's humor is such that John Bass was in charge of the books. You could not get a book of Mayor Baba without going through John Bass. Think of it. You know, there were no books in the stores or anything, you know, no Shariar Press, no online, you know. Go to John if you want a book. And he'd bring books to meetings and try to push them, you know, on people. And then people weren't really buying many books, and John was continually frustrated, and he'd come up to you, I don't know, and you know, and you'd go, oh yeah, and you'd buy one out of intimidation, you know. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take one, yeah. But but he kept them in his apartment in Harlem, right? So you wanted a book, you had to go down to Harlem, and you had to find this public housing building, and you had to go up this dangerous elevator, and there in his apartment, which is about the size of a postage stamp, were piles of Baba's books. I mean, there wasn't enough. You couldn't walk in this apartment. I don't know what he did. I mean, it was just, that's all he had in the apartment. And no one is buying these things. And God Speaks, piles of God Speaks. And many of them signed copies of God Speaks. He couldn't give them away. So anyway, those were the days. So anyway, so that's John Bass. He also has the distinction of being the person who was Norina Machiavelli's bouncer at her lectures. She had to have a bouncer because she'd get heckled. Well, you know, if you say you're transmitting God through your lecture, somebody's going to call you out. Somebody's going to, you know, I mean, it was New York, and not everybody was happy about this, or maybe they didn't know what to expect. And anyway, here she is, and she's, you know, she's speaking, Baba, she's saying Mayor Baba is speaking and all this. So sometimes people would get a little rowdy. And all John had to do was walk over next to where they were seated and stare at them. And they would shut up. I don't think he ever had to take anyone out. That was enough. You know. So he was the bouncer. So you get enough of the picture to appreciate the story, because otherwise it's not as funny. But we arrived in India in '62. We were on the same, we went in the plane that Elizabeth, we always were on, our family was always on Elizabeth's coattails. So we always had a little bit, what do you call it, leg up on other people, because when you went with Elizabeth, you know, everything was, Baba made sure everything was taken care of. So we went with Elizabeth and Kitty, Ruth White, who was in her 90s, right? And she was living with Kitty and Elizabeth at the time. You know, Ruth White, she was a Baha'i, she knew Abdul Baha, she lived in his ashram, and then she became a lover of Baba's. She used to say, when she was like 98, she'd say, I have known 2 avatars. So Abdul Baha and then Meher Baba. So anyway, so she was there going to India in her 90s. She actually went back in '69 when she was 99. So this was not her last trip. And so we arrived at the airport in Bombay, and it was the days before air conditioning in the Bombay airport, I think. I mean, because it wasn't any. There wasn't any. It was like, there's the big fans, and it was very hot. Though it was November, it was unseasonably hot. Oh, we got off the plane, it was like this wall of heat. And my mother, for unknown reasons that I never understood, she decided she was going to wear a wool suit. Well, she wanted to look good, right? And besides, when you're flying in November from New York to India, you don't think, well, she did, well, it's going to be cold in the airplane, and it's New York, it's cold. And so she put on her wool suit, got on. She didn't realize at the other end she'd have to get off, and with the wool suit, you know, and she did. She got off the plane into the thing of heat, and she almost died. I mean, it's like, oh, you know, and we were all, the three kids, Elizabeth and Kitty and Ruth were whisked off, you know, older people, especially Ruth, in a wheelchair, Ruth, whisked off somewhere. We, though, had to be with everyone else and get in line. Now, in line means what in India? I mean, in line, those days was even more in line because you got in line to get in line. And then you got in line to get in another line. And really, you know, somebody did this little thing that was their duty, and then somebody else had something else, and then somebody, so, you know, you were in a lot of different lines, I'm not kidding. And so we went to get in the line, and it was a long line, all these Baba lovers and all that, plus other passengers. And then you get through that line, you have another line, so we're in line. We get to this final line, but it's still very, very long. And my mother is just dying. Oh, you can see she's sweating. She's itching. The wool itches. And, you know, if you didn't know. And in the heat, you just begin to say, you're going to die. You know, just kill me now. And she couldn't do anything about it. And so you could see she's in distress. And, you know, we three kids hanging on to her. And so Elizabeth comes in the room, right? Elizabeth comes in the room from the side. She's already gone through with Kitty and Ruth. She comes in and she goes up to Mother and she says, Jane, I need you to go to the front of the line and go right through. You see, Kitty and I and Ruth are in the car waiting. So you have to just go up there and tell them that you have to be good. And then Elizabeth left. Now, if you knew Elizabeth, you'd know, well, she thought nothing of that. She'd go up to the front of the line. But no, my mother was, you know, very Southern and very, you know, I'm not going to do that kind of person. And so my mother just tried to will it so. You know, she sort of, move line, let's go, come on line, because she did not want to go in front of the line. And cut in front of all these people who were also waiting, who were also hot, you know, and there was this line of people, and New York Baba lovers, you don't want to upset these people. I'm just saying. You don't want to cross these people. And they're standing there, and who should be at the very big front of the line? John Bass. Now you have to know, my mother and John Bass did not get along so well. I'm not saying they were mean to each other, it's just they were mean to each other. They did not get along, and it was like, and you know, and we didn't go to many meetings, but boy, any contact we had with that group, it was just my mother and John, you know, something came up. It just like rubbed against each other, like Baba does. You know, Baba, you know, he has these personalities and he does this and all that. But we weren't thinking of it that way. We were thinking of it just, this man, you know, like, or she. So he is the one in the front of the darn line, right? And she said, oh, I can't go up there and get in front of John Bass. In front of all these people, break in. Elizabeth comes back in. And this time Elizabeth comes up and says, Jane, I thought I told you to go in front. You see, there's the cars waiting. Ruth is there, it's hot. And we need to leave for Poona now. So you have to just go on up front. What are you waiting for? And since she left. Still my mother just couldn't bring herself. And she thought, well, the line is moving, you know, and it was a little bit. And so she was still hoping for the best. And of course, Elizabeth walks in a third time. Now, Elizabeth, this time, looked at her and she said, Jane, Baba has arranged this car because he wants Ruth to be there first so she can be cared for. That's why we have to go. Baba wants you to come now. And Mother looked at Elizabeth and she said, well, why didn't you say that in the first place? Because Mother would have done it then, truthfully. So Elizabeth leaves and Mother says, all right, fine. And she grabs us and our hand luggage and all this stuff, and we take all our stuff up to the front of the line, and John has just gotten to the very front. Now he's the next person to be served by the thing and to get through, right? So he's the next person, and Mother just pushes right in front of him. And she just says, I have to get in line. And he looks up at her and he's like, and she says, she turns to him, before he could say anything, she turns to him and she says, and as for you, John Bass, I don't care what you're thinking. I have to do this. And John didn't know what hit him. He went, he had no idea what was going on. And so Mother said after she told me later, she said after she said that, she felt great. The heat left her. She felt wonderful, So she got through, she got our passports, we went through, we went to Guruprasad. Okay, so next scene is the next day, the women go first to see Baba. You know how it is with Baba, sometimes this happens. In the beginning of the darshan, Baba, the Western women he wanted to have them come, and then the Western men would come, and then we would all be together after that. So Western women go. And she told me all this later, because I, of course, wasn't there for this, but Western women are with Baba. And Baba naturally, you know how it is when the men aren't there. So Baba wants to talk about the men, And Baba brings up some of the men, because Baba, doesn't miss anything. So Baba says, he says, Harry Kinmore. Yeah, you know Harry. Everybody. I mean, there were different degrees of because Harry could be controversial, and not everybody had the same relationship. He had people who really loved Harry and people who really getting along with Harry. So Harry Kinmore. Yes, Baba, we know. Baba said, the way Harry says my prayer. How do you think? What do you think of the way he says my prayer? The Master's Prayer. I don't know, this was famous, him giving the Master's Prayer. I don't know, have you ever heard a rendition of him giving the Master's Prayer? I'm not going to try to do it, but it's so funny. It must be online somewhere, Tony. But I mean, the way he gave it wasn't as much funny. The reactions were funny because Harry, of course, being blind, didn't see your reaction. He just did it for Baba. He would get up, and he was he seemed like he was real tall, but I don't know if he was really tall. He just seemed huge. And he'd get up and he would, he would give he'd go, and I'm not going to try to do the whole thing, but he'd do, oh, performing God! And I've toned it down like 10 decibels. And he'd get to parts like, power infinite, bliss infinite. I remember as a child I was going, It scared me to, My God. And if he was up on a stage and I'm in the back, it still, was like this. And some people loved it. Some people were not so happy. You know what I'm saying? And oh my God. And, and it was also the way he insisted if you said Meher Baba, he'd say, Meher Baba. Meher Baba. The guy ought to have been president. It's Meher Baba. So anyway, this is my childhood trauma, folks. So Harry, Baba brought it up. I says, how do you think, what do you think of him, how he gives my prayer? and of course people, the women there, well, yes, Baba, yes. And they would sort of mumble things, and Baba, someone said, says, well, Baba, sometimes it's a little loud. Trying to be honest, Baba listened. Baba said, I know. Harry, it can be very loud. Yeah? But Baba loves the way he gives the prayer. Why? Because he gives it from his heart. And he loves me so much. Yeah. I love the way he gives the prayer. And I did too from that moment on, I can tell you. From as soon as I heard that, I think we all did. And then Baba, of course, turns to somebody else of the men, and he says, and John Bass. John Bass. Do you all, do you always understand John Bass? Because, it was hard to understand. Do you understand John Bass? And of course, there was a lot of sheepish looking people, and again, there was a little mumbling, and, Baba would, Ella, do you understand? Oh, Baba, yes, sometimes I do. Like that. Baba was enjoying this immensely. And then Baba stopped, and he turned around. And my mother was right back here, and behind the sofa, seated just behind Baba. Baba turned around, and he looked at my mother deep in the eyes. And he said, and Jane, Baba wants to know, do you understand John Bass? And Mother didn't know what to say. She was paralyzed because of all that had just happened, because of all her relationship with him, John. And she tried to say something, and Baba says, all right. Baba said, I understand. But Jane, always remember, John loves me with all his heart. And Jane, I love John with all my heart. Can you remember that? And as soon as Baba said that, Mother said, all that had been between she and John all those years just vanished. It just vanished. And she just felt this great love for him. And as soon as the meeting was over, she rushed back to the hotel. It was even another hotel. It wasn't even hers. She rushed to his hotel where he was staying to find John Bass. And she found him. And she said, John, this is what Baba said about you. Baba said he loves you with all his heart, and that you love him with all your heart. And then she embraced him. And John, like a big baby stood there weeping, weeping, weeping. Isn't that amazing? How Baba is. You know, that is Baba. There's no one like that. You know, because Baba didn't say, Jane, I know you had an argument because I'm God, I can read your mind. You know, then it wouldn't have been Baba. Baba is in here, and it has to come from there, not Baba giving you this and giving you that. So anyway, you know that. It was so Baba's way, and it was the first sort of real experience I had, hearing Mother tell me this later, of how Baba knows every heart. And every moment he knows every heart. And he responds. You know, I asked Erich, oh gosh, I want to have a problem. I just have so many things I want to share and then I get lost. Sorry. But I asked Erich one day, I don't remember, maybe 70s. I asked him, I don't know, were we on a walk or something like that? You know, and he liked it if you ask him things. So I said, you know, Baba, Erich, I said, Baba says that he responds every moment to everyone in creation. I said, Erich, did you have any idea how he did that? When you were with him side by side, could you ever see that or understand what that is? And Erich, he looked at me and said, yeah, brother, no. We had no idea. Nothing. We knew nothing. I said, you didn't know? No. He said, how are we to know? Yeah, what were we doing? Caring for his body like that, you know. Seeing to his comfort. Well, yeah. We didn't know. How were we did not know nothing. Brother, I'm telling you, we knew nothing. And then we walked a little more, and he stopped and he paused. And he said, well, from time to time, yeah, we had some glimpse was there. Yeah, some glimpse. I said, what do you mean? And then he told me this story. Now, I'm sure this story is some different places, because that's the way it is now. So don't Google it. I say that because I was giving a talk once. I was telling a story about Erich. Someone Googled it and came up later and said, well, see, this is what he'd actually... Curses on Google. But actually, Erich told the stories differently. Not completely, but, you know, to the person he was speaking to. You know this, right? This is how he told it to me. It's true how he told it to me, but it's also true how he told it to you. But what would he emphasize in this story would be for you. What he emphasized in this story when he's speaking to me would be for me. He knew. Erich was the most intuitive, brilliant mind I've ever known, except for Baba. And Mani also. He knew what I needed to hear. I don't know how he knew, but he knew. So he told me this story. And it's like this. Erich said, you know, one day we were Baba was having darshan. He said, you've seen that? I said, yeah. You have seen how when the people come to darshan, if I could not get so emotional, I'd have better voice. But that's how it is. So when people come, they to have Baba's darshan, you see how they do what they do. I said, yeah, in India they bring something for him, like that. Maybe they bring some fruits. Have you seen that? Yes, Baba. I mean, yes, Eric. Have you seen the garlands are there? Yeah. And what is my role there? I am next to him, and yeah, I have to take it away, because they don't know those fruits, as pineapples and all that. That hurts Baba's feet, but it's love, right? They put it there, so it's my duty to take it away. Baba thanks them and all that, and blesses them, and I put it over here. Their gift of love. It's all Baba wants me to keep safely, all that. The garlands, Baba has all the garlands, yes, but, Baba's neck was not good, Baba suffered his neck pain all his life because of the garlanding, all that. So I would take off the garland, take it over, especially Baba said, Eric said, they would bring such huge garlands. You've never seen such a thing. I said, oh yeah, I've seen it, yeah. So sometimes people would give something, money, like that. I said, really? They bring money? Yeah. No, it's true. They bring some money for Baba. And I said, what did Baba do? Baba says, Baba blessed them, and then gave it to Eric. Well, they gave it to Eric. Baba blessed it, and Baba gave it back. Yeah, Eric said he never kept the money. Never kept money because Baba didn't touch it. You know that. He didn't touch the money. So I had to take it, and then I had to give it back, like that. So one day, darshan, man comes, and he pulls out, Eric said, a wad, you may say. That's what it called. Yeah, you would call it a wad. I don't know why. Yeah, so, means, a lot of money was there. You could see. Large bills were there. Yeah. Large bills. Do you understand what I'm saying? I said, yes, Eric, I get the picture. Yeah. So he says, he brought out this wad of money to give to Baba. And I said, oh God. So I took the money, like I always do, and Baba blessed him and all that. I'm going to give it back to him, as Baba always asks. And Baba said, keep it. I just looked at Baba. It was like, yeah, really, Baba? Yeah. Baba said, keep it. And Eric said, when? Put it in your pocket. Eric had these shirts with the big pockets, so Baba said, stuff it in your pocket. So Eric had this big wad of money in there. And the thing went on. After darshan was over, naturally Eric, back in Guruprasad, Eric said, Baba, what is this now? Yeah, I have this money. This Baba said, Baba, this is a considerable sum. What am I to do with this money? Baba said, just keep it. Keep it with you. No, keep it with you. Keep it with me, Baba. Yeah. No, carry it? Yeah, just keep it with you, Baba. Don't bother me with it. Keep it. Eric said, what can I do? He was the God man, after all. So a few days go by, and Eric is feeling now a little burdened by the money. It's sitting there, and it's kind of heavy, and he's always aware of it. So he brings it up with Baba again, and he says, Baba, yeah, remember the money is there. I told you just to keep it. No, Baba, yeah, you did. Yes, here, Baba. I'm doing it. But I am asking you, what should I do? Baba said, why are you worried about this? I told you, keep it with you. Yes, Baba, but what do I do? No, just keep it with you. All right, so what? Some days go by. And again, Erich brings it up. And he feels very reluctant to do so. Because by now, he can see Baba's irritated with this and bothered. He keeps bringing it up, but what is he to do? He's carrying around who knows how much money. And so this time Erich brings it up. And Erich, of course, he's the only one, I think this is true, who could speak to Baba this way. Yeah. He was Baba's brother, companion, Baba. So comfortable, and Baba was deeply comfortable in his presence, as with no one else on the men's side. And so Erich thought of how to do it, and he said, Baba, you know how it is today, and you know how it is. If you're walking around here now, and you have big sums of money, it's dangerous, Baba. What if I'm out? Yeah, it's a dangerous thing. People will take it. Yeah. So Baba, it's a dangerous thing. So what should I do? It's dangerous, Baba? Yeah. No, Baba, I'm saying, you should tell me what to do with it now. Baba says, you will know. All right, Baba, what can I do? And then that was the last time he asked Baba. So he had some errand to run in some village not far, for Baba, And so he went to this village. Money in pocket. To do whatever the work was, I don't know what it was. And he went, of course, he did the thing for Baba, and all that, and then he went to the tea shop, to get a cup of chai, and, naturally before returning, and he's sitting having the chai, and all that, and he overhears someone at the next table. And they're saying, they're lamenting. They're lamenting. Oh, so-and-so, it's a terrible thing like this. Oh, he was so rich. Yeah, he was the richest one in the whole place here. He was the richest person. Yeah. So Erich's ears pop up. Because, and Erich looked at me and said, do you know? Baba, he had a soft spot for rich people who fell. Do you know that? I said, no, I didn't know. Yeah, he did. They were there, then they fell. Baba had a very soft spot for such people. So my ears are open now, I'm listening. And they're saying, this fellow, he was very wealthy, and then he lost all his money, and now his wife and children are destitute, and he's living in this hovel, and there's nothing he can do, and he's just desperate and all that. And Eric says, maybe this is it, right? Maybe this is it. He's got this. And so he says, he goes over to the table and says, brother, could you tell me, where does this man live and all that? Oh, he said, it's so sad. He lives in this terrible place and all that. And they give him the directions, So he goes to this hovel. He knocks, and there's no one there. Or no one comes to the door. So I said, But he doesn't give up. Erich says, I don't have to be back yet, so let me just go and wait again. Maybe he'll return and all that. He just had a feeling he had to see this through. So he went, he sat for a while. And later in the afternoon, he goes back to the place. He knocks on the door. And the man opens the door. And he looks up at Erich, and Erich looks at him. And Erich says, "Are you so-and-so?" He said, "Yeah, I am." Erich reaches into his pocket, pulls out the wad of money, and gives it to the man, and says what Baba asked them always to say. He said, "This is a gift from God. Accept it and oblige Him. This is a gift from God. Accept it and oblige Him." And the man looked at me. And he began to weep. And Erich waited there and said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you have any idea?" He said, I was so destitute. My family was suffering so. And I thought, there is no way out except for me to take my life. And tonight, this afternoon was the time I had appointed to do it. And then came your knock at that time. And now, I can care for my family. I don't have to take my life. So Erich went inside with him. And this part touched me a great deal. Erich washed his feet. Erich washed his feet. And then bowed down to him. And then he left. And of course, when he went back, he reported to Baba, this is how it happened and all that. Is that so? Yeah. This is the end. Tell me the man. Where was? Yeah. Who is he now? Yeah. Was he going to kill him? Yes, Baba. Yeah. Baba said, "Oh, wonderful." Baba said, "He was rich and now he was." Yes, Baba. Oh. I said, "Good." Baba said, "I'm very pleased to hear this, that you did this." Yeah, good of you, Erich. So that's how Baba was, every moment. And Erich said, "You see, we didn't know, but now, now we come back. We can look back and realize we had no idea what he was doing." So on my allotted time, there's little time left, and I'm torn. I have two stories, and I don't know if I should tell one or both or not, either of them at this point. Really? Oh, okay. You know I enjoy this more than you do, don't you? Because to live him like this in this moment is so, it's such a gift. He never he never leaves, you know. He never leaves. So I would like to share them, just one, and I'll try to make it concise, about how I came to know Baba Knows My Heart. And I've told you, many of you, this one, so it's familiar, but some maybe not. It doesn't matter. I've come to feel, truthfully I've come to feel that every time someone tells a story about Baba, whether in his body or whether their own life with Baba, it's new. Every time it's new. It's just like it's happening now. So, you know, when I would hear close ones over the years tell stories that I had heard, it was always as though I'd heard it for the first time. So that's how I feel. And then I'd like to share, to end, a story that I really don't share much about my mother and her most profound experience of what we're talking about right now, which I kind of love to share when I can, but it's very rare because it's very personal. But she now has been gone for some years, so she can't reach out and do anything about it. As far as I know. She, you know, she was here at the Northeast Gathering, of course, and she didn't tell this story that I'm going to share with you. I don't think she did. I know she did, because I don't think she ever shared it. My story was a very simple thing, actually. I was 13 years old in 1962, which of course is a threshold year for a young man, 13. You know, in all traditions, really, it's the year, you know, of transition to becoming a man or whatever they call it. So I was there at 13, and this is a little embarrassing, I guess, because one thing I had in my mind going to see Baba again after 4 years, one of the things I had was that I really wanted to know what his skin felt like, his body. Because in 1958, I was so caught up in the emotion of being with him that later I realized I'm an introvert, and so deeply introverted. And introverts, if they don't concentrate on a particular thing, they don't really remember it, a physical thing. And so I didn't concentrate on what he felt like. And later I realized I don't remember how his body felt. So when I got to India in the first time, we embraced Baba. Concentrating on embracing Baba, it also came to me to try to concentrate on what he feels like. And I went up to him and I took him by the shoulders and pressed him like this. And Baba looked at me like, what? And then I went in for the embrace, Baba embracing me, and I rubbed my cheek, and I wasn't shaving then, so it was soft. And Baba's cheek was like a baby's. You know, Baba liked to be clean shaven, as you know, and very clean shaven. And so I rubbed my cheek up against him, so I could always remember his cheek. And then I whispered in his ear, I love you, Baba. And Baba smiled. I went to the other side, and I rubbed the other cheek. But the other thing I wanted to experience, I didn't ask for things I probably should have asked for. I asked for these things, which, you know, says a lot about me. But anyway, I wanted to touch his feet. Why? Well, I don't know. In '58, we didn't do that because Baba with Westerners, Baba didn't have people touching his feet and all that. It wasn't, Baba, with Westerners was the custom, Baba would embrace and all that. But if he did, I don't think he did that at all in 1958. If he did, I didn't see it. And at least I thought of it, but I had no opportunity. Why? I sat next to him in the movie theater my mother's theater, we were watching the '56 film of him. I was sitting next to him, looking over at his feet, and just wanting to reach out and touch them. But of course I wouldn't do that. Disturbing him. It was bad enough to be sitting in front of Baba and my mother always saying, don't move, you can't move, Baba. So I'm like this, but I had that longing, you see. So that longing was implanted there in '58, and so 4 years later I have the longing. I want to touch his feet. And there was no opportunity because, the Easterners, the darshan in the afternoon, some Easterners would come by and of course touch his feet, natural thing. And I suppose I could have done it. I suppose anybody could have done it. But I was one of these children or young people who, I didn't want to step out of line. I didn't want to, make it seem as though I was doing something Baba wouldn't want. I had it in my mind I couldn't do it. I may have been wrong about this, but I didn't. And so the whole darshan went by, and it was wonderful. I wasn't obsessed by it the whole time, but it would be there, back here somewhere. And the last day came, and we had to say farewell to Baba. And Baba said, he told us, this will be the last time you see me like this. Now, Baba, he could change his mind, but we always took Baba at what he said. And so we felt it. I felt it. And that was hard. And people didn't want to get the last embrace, naturally. People would hang back. I did. So much so that finally Baba had to go. Has everyone had their embrace? And he started to go, so everybody rushed forward like that. But during that session, that painful session, Baba's, of course, in a very light mood, joking, teasing, like he did. It was not a heavy. Baba was never, Baba's always like that. And finding humor and teasing somebody and all that. So it wasn't heavy, but we were all feeling it. And in the middle of that session, Baba said, Baram, his brother, wants us to go outside briefly so he can take a film of us with him. See, Baba didn't allow, he allowed once Baram to film inside, but he didn't allow anybody else to film inside, or take pictures. No, there were no pictures. So when Baram said that he wanted this, Baba said, all right, he'd let him. He agreed. So Baba took us all out of the Guruprasad, down the stairs, outside, and Baram had us all arrayed around Baba, and then Baram took the film, and Baba was very happy and all that. And then we went back inside, everybody got in their place, Baba got in, sat down. I sat next to Baba like I always did on the floor, next to his knee, and after a moment, I hear Erich, Charles! Like that, real loud. And I didn't pay much attention because Charles Purdom was there. And the whole time, Baba would be answering questions about the biography Purdom was writing, or, Charles would ask this, and Baba would say this, and to Purdom, like that. So whenever the word, Baba and I didn't communicate that way. We just spoke. spoke, with our eyes, a smile, touch. I didn't need to say anything, and Baba didn't. No, that wasn't my relationship with Baba. So when Eric said Charles, I didn't even look up. And after a moment, I looked around. I looked up, and Eric was staring at me. And I looked over at Baba. Baba was staring at me. I was like, what? And I said, why aren't you answering? And I said, oh, yes, Baba. And Eric said, Charles. Sorry, all these years I still have a hard time saying it. Charles, Baba wants you to remove his sandals. That's the instant I knew. Baba knows my heart. Nothing is hidden from Baba. He gave me that probably because I needed to be hit enough on the head so I would never forget it. And I could convey it. Because everybody should know that, who loves Baba. And how to say that? You can say it, but how to convey it, So of course, I scrambled down and I lift his foot. Baba doesn't help. He doesn't lift it up to help make it lighter. No, he lets me do the whole thing, which is so wonderful. I lift his foot and feel it. I take off his sandal and I hold the foot for just a moment, And I've gotten it wrong backwards. I lift his foot and I put on. I take off the sandal, that's right, because he's inside now. And then I move to the other foot. I lift it, I take off the sandal, and I put them aside. Baba's feet are there on the pillow, his beautiful feet, and I have held the feet, touched the feet of the God-man. And then it goes on, and then Baba, the goodbyes are there, the embraces are there, and all that. And then after all of that, everyone is weeping, and Baba is still teasing and happy and all that, making us feel happy, But then Baba's ready, it's time. But as he begins to get out of his seat, the sofa there, you can see he's ready. He suddenly looks up. And he looks, sometimes Baba could look so huge, so powerful, big. Sometimes he could look small, like a child. And he looks up and he looked so helpless, like a child. And he gestures to Erich, and Erich says, Charles, Baba wants to know, where are his sandals? He couldn't leave because they had been pushed under in all the confusion, under the sofa, so there were no sandals. So Baba couldn't just get up and put it. So I, of course, scrambled, found the sandals, and a second time got to lift his feet, and this time put the sandals on his feet. And then he got up to leave, and he slowly walked out of the room, and that Baba in his white sadra, and he was, again, looking very fragile, actually, and walking through the crowd. This is the only day he left first, right? Usually we would leave, and he would be still sitting there, but he left first, and he was going out, and I remember the ribbon tied around his hair in the back, you know? He did like that, like Mara, I guess, would do. A pink ribbon was there. That's kind of the last thing I remember, going out with the pink ribbon. And Baba had said before he got up, I didn't say this, but he had said just before he got up, he said, I am the Christ. Open your eyes, and you will see me as I really am. And as he was walking out, that's what I felt in my mind, in my heart. Yes, he is that. He is that. So that's how I discovered he knows my heart. Now, what to do? Maybe I should save the other story for another occasion, because you need a break by now. No, I'm serious now. All right. If you can do it, I can do it. So this story is about my mother Jane, and I like that this is kind of the last story because I feel like it is a very important story, not because of her, but because of who Baba is. You see, my mother, I have to say this so that the story has some context. My mother had a very difficult life. She met Baba when she was 33, but prior to that, she had a very, very difficult life. She had abuse as a child, I won't talk about, but she did. She didn't tell me until many years later. She was abused. Ronnie's doing this work now. Where's Ronnie? You're doing this work. You know how hard that is. It scars a person for life. Yeah. You work with these people. It's hard. So. And then men took advantage of her all her life, really. I mean, she tried to navigate that world because she was so beautiful physically that she used that to navigate the world, but in a way it only made it worse, you know. So she married early to get away from home, and then had a child, and then this man who was a lawyer took away the child at 2, and she didn't see her again until she was 19. She never told us this until this daughter showed up years later when we were living in New York. I didn't know that she existed. And she then married my father and had 3 children, although I'm actually not his biological son. She told me that too later. So it was complex and difficult and painful, and she suffered a lot. But she loved God through it all. In her own way, she was seeking for God until finally she felt like she was going to die. She always felt at 33, I'll die. And she was ready to die. She got paralyzed and couldn't move. Oh, the doctor said, it's this, that, nervous breakdown. They didn't know what to do. She was paralyzed. I remember going into the bedroom and talking. All she wanted to do was talk about God. She was reading Franny and Zoe, the Salinger books, and there are a lot about God and the Jesus prayer and all that. She just wanted to talk about God. And I didn't know what was wrong with her. I thought she was dying. And she was sinking into death. And somewhere deep inside, a voice came, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And she woke up, got out of the bed, and we left the next day for Myrtle Beach. She just took us, the children, and she left. She always loved Myrtle Beach. And when the rest of the Hayneses didn't want to go to Myrtle Beach, they wanted to go somewhere else, she said, well, I'll just go myself. She didn't know why. Anyway, that's the backdrop. Without that, it's hard to appreciate the rest of the story, which I hope won't be too long. So, when she came to Baba at 33, she did die, and she came to a new life. But you know how it is. Baba let her know, I'm just saying this, Baba let her know that she was in his circle. So all that happened to her wasn't in spite. She said, Baba's the only person who's ever loved me. Not in spite of who I am, but because of who I am. He's the only man who ever loved me that way. And it was true. So she was close to Baba all that time. How many lifetimes? It didn't matter what she was going through because she had to go through for whatever work he was doing. Look at the people close to Baba, how they had to suffer. So, anyway, you know that, but I just want to say, it's not like she suffered and then, it was all part of the same story. And she came because of Elizabeth. She came to know Baba through Elizabeth and Elizabeth's transparency to Baba. When you met her in those days, in the 57 we met Elizabeth and Kitty, it was like meeting Baba because they were so transparent. Yes, they had their personalities, but there was no self, so little self, right? So you just, being with them, it was like being with him. So that's when I met Baba, was through meeting him. And she felt that she wanted that. That's what she had been waiting for, that love, that unconditional love. But she suffered still. A lifetime of suffering. Doesn't go away. And in her early years with Baba, she struggled because she was Jane, the complex person that many found difficult. The person who was theatrical, she was an actress after all, who sort of had to be on stage all the time, who, like Norina, was a bigger-than-life personality, and some people found that very difficult. And somehow, center of attention, just by going in a room, and a lot of people didn't like it. Other people loved it. It's like Norina. Norina had people who just were overwhelmed by being with her, and other people who just couldn't stand being around her. It's like that. She was one of those around Baba like that, bigger-than-life personalities. She couldn't help it. But she suffered for it because she didn't want to be that. And she felt so unworthy because of all that she had been through, all those different affairs and all those things. And she said, oh, I'm just not worthy, I'm not worthy. And she couldn't get over it, even though Baba would say to her, you're my Jane, Baba's Jane, I love you and all that. It's still, how could she? And she also thought, and truthfully, people made her think, you're only being kept close and around at the center because you know what? Elizabeth. You're because of Elizabeth. And Elizabeth loves you, and so, it's just like Norina all over again. Which in kind of a way it was. She knew that. She didn't feel accepted for who she was. She felt accepted only because they had to. It was tough. And so when we went to India in 1962, Mother, by that time, every morning, because Baba mentioned in 1958 in the barn, he had mentioned St. Teresa of Avila, and asked Purdom and Harry Kenmore if they knew anything about her and so forth. And they said, well, I think Harry said, all I know is that she gave her life to Christ and she loved Christ. And Baba said, that's right. And he said, that's all you need know. But Mother picked it up, and Purdom loved Teresa. So they began a relationship and about Teresa of Avila as well. And so every morning, Mother would read something from St. Teresa of Avila, who she identified with very, very strongly. And one of Baba's favorite saints, of course, Baba went to Avila. And so that was Mother's spiritual food every day. People didn't realize this, you see, but this is what sustained her, even though during the day she felt always strained, overworked, out of place, unworthy, and still gave out to people. Still, Mother, was very giving and loving, but she suffered inwardly. And so anyway, she had a secret prayer during this time. And I'm going to share it with you. Now, I never saw this prayer. When she died, Christopher loves St. Teresa. He wrote a dissertation on her, and he loves her. And he and my mother bonded over Teresa, and we went to all her convents together and all that. But Christopher knows every inch of every book of mothers of St. Teresa. So in one of the books, he found this prayer in her handwriting, stuck. And I always knew that she would refer to this. She said, I have a secret prayer that I say every day. But she never showed it to me. And so here's what she would pray. Nothing matters, O beloved. Do not be indifferent to me, O beloved. Suffer me not to be separated from thee. I wouldst be thy bride. Thou art the Christ. Now that language, of course, is Teresa's language too. It's her longing. I wouldst be thy bride. And that became Mother's prayer every day of her life. It sustained her through all the suffering. So when we went to India in '62, and the first day of darshan, unexpectedly, because it's November and it's not supposed to rain, right? It's not monsoon, but it did. Hearing the rain today, it rained on everybody. The pandal started to come, water started to come, and people were getting soaked, and it was amazing. And Baba was there, like, look at this, Baba, And then Baba, and people started rushing Baba, because thousands of people wanted their embrace, and they were now anxious, what's going to happen? Baba's going to cancel, and so they would start rushing the stage, no lines anymore. The Westerners, the women Westerners, or at least the old-timers, if you will, were taken inside and drenched. And the women Mandli went through the trunks. Baba had told them to pack a lot of things. And they said, Baba, we don't need all this. It's just 2-3 months. No, Baba said, bring a lot. Baba, we don't need, no, Baba said, bring a lot. And so they did. They brought these trunks full of stuff, extra clothes. And of course, when these women came in, they had all these clothes, and they dug through, and they found clothes for everybody to wear. Elizabeth's old brown bathrobe that she had in the ashram came out of a trunk, and she put on her old bathrobe, like that. And so they were all the Western women were putting on warm clothes, mother included. And the men, we were holding each other's hands like this to make a fence to protect Baba. So that afternoon, after the rain finished, and the clothes were dried out and all that, the women went back to retrieve their clothes. And Mara was helping to identify objects. And Mara at one point picked up a scarf. I mean, completely innocently, right? I mean, she picked up a scarf that, she wanted to know. So, whose is this? Whose is this? Who belongs to this? And then she said, very loudly and clearly, it does not belong here. And it was Mother's. And it pierced her heart. It wasn't intended, I'm sure, Mara. It wasn't, but it pierced her heart because all of her insecurities came to the surface. All of her feeling, I am not worthy. I am not here on my own. I'm here because of Elizabeth. They don't really accept me. Even the women Mondley don't accept me. It's just, and all that came to the surface, and she was devastated, and she went and she took her scarf, and she left, and she couldn't help it. She broke apart. Not because of the scarf, but because of all that she had experienced and suffered, and it just seemed too much now. I remember this because I went to her bedroom during this time at the hotel, the Turf Club. I knew something was wrong. I could always tell with her when there was something wrong. So I kneeled beside her bed and I said, Mother, what is wrong? She was just so depressed and she was weeping. And she says, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. I don't belong with Baba. I am not worthy. I'll never be worthy. And I tried to reassure her. Oh, but, all the things one might say, it didn't help. And then, maybe it was next day, after day, I don't know. Adi and Minu. Minu was an early disciple of Baba's. Minu, yeah. Wonderful man, Karas, Minu. Adi and Minu came running down the walk in front of where we were staying at the Turf Club. Running! With this huge garland. I had never seen such a thing. I mean, serious garland. I mean, it was like unbelievable. And then a bouquet of flowers. And they came rushing and they found Mother's room. Like some emergency. Mother came to the door and they said, this is a wedding garland and these flowers, you see, there's been a wedding and Baba had the couple come to him. They brought this garland to him. He placed it on his head. Baba placed it on his head. And Baba held these flowers. Mother's looking at them like, and Baba then has instructed us urgently, take this garland to Jane. Take these flowers to Jane and tell her to keep them in her room all night. Tell her my order is You keep these in your room. Jane, you must keep these in your room all night. And so she did. And she then later wrote to Baba, and this is what she said. The fragrance of your love filled my room. I looked at the garland and bouquet through the white on the netting, and I knew it was my bridal chamber. What else could you have meant? When dawn wakened me, soft light filled the room with diffused splendor, and I felt your sweet fragrance near me. My secret prayer to you was now answered. If I couldst be thy bride. And from that day on, she knew Baba knows her heart. And she does belong. She is worthy, as we all are, because he makes us so. Every moment I respond to the whole of creation. My response, being divine, is wholly from love. Jai Baba.
Dalton